Kaboom. Looks like I've already installed a couple smoke alarms, and they're really not that hard to install. I'm just getting ready to install this one next. And I got two different ones. See here? This one is for smoke alarm only, and it's hardwired. You got the electrical wire nut right there, and it also says hardwired right there. It also says hardwired right there. And it's a 10-year lithium battery backup too. You've got to get these kind. That's the best kind. That way you don't ever have to replace these 9-volt batteries. See this here? This came out of the old smoke alarm, and there was a little pocket in the back here, and that's where the battery went. Not all smoke alarms are the same, so this one happens to have the battery on the inside. But if your smoke alarms are over 10 years old, then you should replace them with new smoke alarms. And see, I got two different kinds. See, this one says smoke alarm only, this one says combination. And the combination means that it detects smoke and carbon monoxide. Now, it's generally a good idea to do that on the one that's fairly close to the kitchen. Aw, look at Mickey. See, the kitchen is over in that direction, and there's no smoke alarm in the kitchen, so you look out into the living room, whatever. This is the closest one right here. Kaboom. This one here, I'm going to put the carbon monoxide smoke alarm there. Then in the rest of the house, you can just do the smoke alarm. See, here in an office area, I've already replaced this smoke alarm right here. It actually went up pretty nice. So that was just a standard smoke alarm, and then I installed a standard smoke alarm right here in the hallway. These were already hardwired into the electrical system, so the locations were there. That's what I went and replaced. Okay, so now I'm getting ready to install this one. This is the old one, and I'm going to put the new one up there, and then I got another one to put in the other bedroom back there. Okay, nice little project. Anyone can do this. Hey, I'm just an average Joe. If I can do it, you can do it. I'm in a little bedroom, and I'm ready to remove this smoke alarm. And it's important to realize some of these smoke alarms are going to be connected to a hardwired system with electrical wires inside the ceiling that goes over to the next smoke alarm, the next one, the next one. So you'll have a green light here, and if you're not quite sure, you can unscrew this and look at it, and here's an area here for the battery. Come on. There. See, there's a 9-volt battery in there. Now, if this was just a smoke alarm with just a battery, you wouldn't have this wire coming in there. So I see that it's going through here and it's going up into the ceiling. So first off, I know that that's a hardwired system. See, this is going to slightly chirp like this even though the power is off. There's something in here that causes that to happen. And on this one, I just kind of unsnap that, pull that off. What I was going to say, before you start working on that, and before you disconnect this and everything, once you realize, okay, it's hardwired into your system, look in your electrical panel, and chances are, it's not going to be written smoke alarms, it's just going to say lights and plugs or outlets or something. And then what I did is I got on the phone with my aunt, because I'm over at my auntie's house replacing smoke alarms for her. And I had her look at the green lights. I told her when the green light goes off, let me know. And I started flipping breakers. It only took me a couple before I found the right one. Okay, so that's very important. When you do this, don't do it hot. And you know, you can do it like that. It's possible to do that one wire nut at a time. You know, but don't do that if you don't have to. Okay, so there's two mounting screws up here, and I had gotten some sheetrock screws because I thought maybe the mounting screws were going to be small, but son of a gun, they are sheetrock screws here. They're fine, and so they're going to be okay. Okay, so I just loosen up the screw, and usually there's a slot here where you can kind of slide that down over the head of the screw. Okay, like that. And if not, you could undo the screw all the way. Okay, sure enough, here's your wires in the box. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of pull them out of here. I still am slightly careful with this. Okay, but I do know that the power is off, right? I should not have to worry about it too terribly much. And on this hardwired system, there's 3 wires here. There's a white wire that connects to the white, black to black, and there's a yellow, and that's connected to red. Sometimes this wire coming from the smoke alarm is red, and you connect it to red or yellow to red. You always, whatever color, could even be blue, you know? But white always goes to white, black always goes to black, okay? So I look at that, all the wires are the same. There's 2 white wires, 2 black wires, and actually there's only 1 red wire. Okay, so I gotta be careful with that. I'm glad that happened. I know this is on the end of a line. Okay, if it was loop-de-loop-de-loop-de-loop to other smoke alarms, and if this wasn't on the end of the line, I'd have 2 red wires in there, okay? But because I only have 1, I want to make sure that when I take this off, that I keep track of this particular wire nut on this one, because if I use one of these other wire nuts, like the black, actually I'm wrong. Each one, there's just 1 black wire, 1 white wire, 1 red wire. Okay, so when I take the wire nuts off, I can replace any wire nut with any wire. Does that make sense? But sometimes if you're not, well, here I'm on the end of a line for here, but if they would have ran actual power back out of here over to somewhere else, like sometimes they do, you might have 2 black wires coming out of the box, 2 white wires coming out of the box, and maybe only 1 red wire coming out of the box. Okay, then you would have to keep track of the wire nuts, because then I try not to put one that has 2 wires on it back onto one that has only 1 wire, because maybe the wire nut is loose and it doesn't tighten up properly. Okay, so now these wires look like they're kind of wrapped on there like that, so I'm just gonna kind of twizzle it off. Hopefully you can catch this. This was a double wire. You do the same thing, because usually on a double wire, the electricians have done you a favor. They've kind of twisted those together, and then you don't have to undo that one. Okay. Boy, this one's giving me kind of fits here, because they really loop-de-loop-de. There you go. Okay. There's that wire. I guess I could try taking the end off of there and then just twizzling that off. See why you really don't want to do this when these wires are hot? You don't want to shock yourself or anything. Okay, wrap that off. Okay, there's the old smoke alarm disconnected, and now we're ready to install the new one. Before I get up there, here's the new little connection piece for the new smoke alarm, okay? And generally on the red, there's a little cap on there, at least most of the ones I've seen. And you don't have to take that cap off. If you go up there, sometimes you might get a smoke alarm that is wired differently, and maybe only the black and red wire, maybe you only get a black and red wire up there, no black and white wire, no red wire, let's say. Okay, so then when you have your connection like this, you would not connect the red wire to anything. Then you could just leave that cap on there. That kind of protects it, because once you pull that off, you know, it's already been set up like the black and white wire. Okay, in this case, we know we're going to use it, right? I'm going to pull that off and see how it's already twisted nice and tight. It's already been stripped back and everything. Okay, so now I can go ahead and install that. That's my next step before I do anything, right? Okay, if you have any questions, you can read your directions. Okay, so time to put my little connector on here. Very simple. I'm going to go black to black, white to white, red to red. Okay, let me do it this way. Maybe you can see that. I want to get that tip right up there. I shouldn't have to do anything special like stripping the wire back or anything. You just want to get these on snug. What I've learned is if you tighten this up too tight, you could actually snap off one of the wires. I've done that before. If you do that, then you have to go down and get your wire strippers and re-strip the wire. It's not, you know, you might have to get a different wire nut at that point. And see, speaking of wire nuts, I'm using the existing wire nuts, and because they all looked pretty good. Okay, if you wanted, you could, some people frown upon that, thinking that it's best to use brand new wire nuts, but these were holding fine. And I just kind of pull on that a little bit, make sure this is snug, because as it goes on, you might think it's tight, and then you twist a little bit more and think, oh wait, no, it's not tight yet. You want to kind of pull on these, make sure everything's okay. Now I'm going to push these back up into the box, kind of how they came before, and kind of wrap it over, push one up at a time, get this kind of finagled so you kind of have these other wires kind of loose and not overlapped. Let's say, okay, this box is pretty easy. Try to keep your fingers off your ceiling. If you got dirty finger tips or something, you might get them on your ceiling. And after, oh yeah, I see Joe's been up here because there's black marks all around here. If you got flat paint, then it's kind of tricky to get those marks off. Okay, so I've got this coming out. Just make sure it's kind of flexible, because eventually this is going to kind of push up a little bit, you know, in there. So I want to make sure there's a little bit of movement, and it's kind of in the middle of the box. Okay, I know you can do that. Save yourself some money. You don't have to hire an electrician to do this for you. Save it. If an electrician came out and did this, how much would he charge you? Depending on how many smoke alarms you had and what he had to do to go out to the store and get it and come out here, he could charge you just for labor for 4 or 5 of them, maybe $150 or so. You know, I'm guessing maybe $100 to $150 for his labor. And then he might charge you a 10% overhead and profit on the material as well as his labor. I mean, it could be a little bit costly to do this. And hey, save that money, keep it in your pocket, and do it yourself.